Marcus Whitfield walked into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom wearing an $8,000 custom Armani suit that cost more than most people earn in 3 months. On his wrist gleamed a Patek Philippe watch worth $150,000, and his Italian leather shoes clicked against the marble floor with the rhythm of absolute confidence. He carried a designer briefcase in one hand while a Bluetooth earpiece remained lodged in his ear, as if he might receive an important business call at any moment. This wasn't just any businessman facing minor charges. Marcus was the CEO of TechVantage Solutions, a technology consulting firm worth over $400 million, and his annual salary of $3.2 million plus stock options placed him firmly among Rhode Island's wealthiest executives. At 47 years old, he looked like he'd just stepped out of a Fortune 500 magazine photo shoot, and he walked with the swagger of someone who'd never faced a consequence he couldn't buy his way out of. The reason Marcus found himself in court that Friday morning was shocking in its cruelty. He'd been charged with assault on a parking attendant at Giuseppe's, one of Providence's most exclusive restaurants. The victim was 68-year-old Miguel Rodriguez, a humble parking attendant who'd worked at the restaurant for over 15 years. The incident occurred when Marcus arrived demanding VIP parking at the sold-out establishment. When Miguel politely explained that no spaces were available, Marcus became enraged. Security footage would later show Marcus shoving the elderly man to the ground with both hands, causing Miguel to suffer a fractured wrist and bruised ribs. But Marcus's behavior didn't stop there. As Miguel lay on the pavement in pain, Marcus pulled out his wallet and tried to pay him off with $500 cash, telling him to forget the whole thing happened. When Miguel, maintaining his dignity, refused the bribe, Marcus immediately called the police commissioner, who happened to be his golf buddy, demanding that any charges be dropped before they were even filed. When police arrived at the scene, Marcus was on his phone with his team of lawyers, showing absolutely no concern for Miguel's injuries or the severity of his actions. He told the arresting officers, "Do you know who I am? I employ more people than this entire precinct." But Marcus made one catastrophic error in Judge Caprio's courtroom that would change everything. During the hearing, while Judge Caprio was carefully reviewing the shocking evidence of the assault and explaining the serious nature of the charges, Marcus did something so disrespectful, so monumentally arrogant, that it would cost him everything he built over 20 years of climbing the corporate ladder. His $400 million company, his position on multiple boards, his reputation in the business community, his standing among Rhode Island's elite, all of it would come crashing down because of a single moment of entitlement that revealed his true character. This wasn't just about a parking lot assault anymore. This was about a man who genuinely believed that his wealth placed him above the laws that governed ordinary citizens, and Judge Caprio was about to teach him the most expensive lesson of his life. If you've watched this far, don't miss the end of the video. Like the video, sit back, and enjoy listening to the story because what you're about to witness will be the most expensive display of disrespect in corporate history. This CEO's arrogance will cost him absolutely everything, and the moment of his downfall will be captured on camera for millions to see. What starts as a simple assault case will become a masterclass in how privilege and contempt can destroy even the most successful career in a matter of minutes. Let's dive into what happened when Marcus Whitfield learned that some things in life cannot be purchased, negotiated, or influenced away, no matter how much money you have in the bank. It was Friday morning at exactly 11 a.m. when the bailiff's voice echoed through Providence Municipal Court announcing, "The State of Rhode Island versus Marcus David Whitfield." Marcus entered the courtroom as if he were arriving at a routine board meeting rather than facing criminal charges. He didn't bother removing his Bluetooth earpiece. His phone remained visible in his hand as he checked emails and messages while walking to the defendant's table. He stood there without acknowledging Judge Caprio, the court staff, or anyone else in the room, his posture radiating the message that this was beneath his time and attention. Judge Caprio looked up from his bench with the characteristic respect and dignity he showed every defendant who appeared before him, regardless of their background or attitude. "Good morning, Mr. Whitfield," he said in a calm, professional tone. Marcus barely glanced in his direction, his eyes still focused on his phone screen. "Yeah, morning. Can we make this quick? I have a 12:30 with investors," he responded without any trace of the customary respect shown in a courtroom. No, Your Honor, no acknowledgement of where he was standing, just the casual dismissiveness you might give someone interrupting your coffee break. Judge Caprio noticed the blatant disrespect immediately but maintained his composure as he always did. He proceeded to state the charges clearly and methodically. Mr. Whitfield, you're charged with assault and battery, public disturbance, and attempted bribery of a witness. The complaint alleges that you physically attacked a parking attendant, causing serious injury, and then attempted to pay him to remain silent about the incident. How do you respond to these charges? Marcus let out a dramatic sigh, the kind of exaggerated exhale someone makes when they're being forced to explain something obvious to a child. Your Honor, this entire situation is a massive overreaction to what amounts to nothing more than a simple parking dispute. Miguel, the attendant, he was being unnecessarily difficult about space availability. I was simply expressing the frustration that any paying customer would feel when service falls below acceptable standards. The whole thing has been blown completely out of proportion. Judge Caprio's voice remained steady but carried a subtle edge. Mr. Whitfield, according to the police report and multiple witness statements, you physically pushed a 68-year-old man to the ground, causing him to fracture his wrist and sustain bruised ribs. That's not expressing frustration. That's assault. Marcus waved his hand dismissively, still holding his phone. He was blocking access to my vehicle. I may have nudged him to get past, but he made a theatrical fall to create a lawsuit opportunity. It's a classic setup that happens to successful people all the time. The courtroom filled with murmurs of disbelief at his casual characterization of a violent assault. Marcus checked his expensive watch, clearly annoyed that this was taking longer than he'd anticipated. Look, Your Honor, I run a company that generates over $400 million in annual revenue. I make critical decisions every single day that affect thousands of employees and their families. This parking lot drama is frankly beneath both my time and yours. Can we just settle on a reasonable fine amount so I can get back to actual important work? Judge Caprio took a deep breath, his decades of judicial experience helping him maintain professional composure in the face of such extraordinary arrogance. He began reviewing the police report more carefully, noting specific details. Mr. Whitfield, the report indicates that after pushing Miguel to the ground, you attempted to give him $500 in cash to forget the incident occurred. Is that accurate? Marcus straightened slightly, as if preparing to deliver a business presentation. Officer Chen's report clearly reflects a misunderstanding of how business leaders operate in the real world. In my world, Your Honor, we solve problems efficiently through appropriate compensation. That's not bribery. That's effective problem solving. It's how functional adults handle minor conflicts without wasting everyone's time with bureaucratic procedures. The courtroom collectively held its breath at this brazen admission. Judge Caprio's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. Mr. Whitfield, you cannot purchase your way out of criminal charges for assaulting another human being. The law applies equally to everyone, regardless of their income or position. Marcus actually smiled, a condescending expression that suggested he knew something the judge didn't. Your Honor, with all due respect to your position, you can purchase your way out of almost anything if you have sufficient resources. That's not my opinion. That's simply how the world actually works. Anyone who's achieved real success understands this fundamental reality. Judge Caprio decided it was time to show Marcus exactly what had been captured on camera. Mr. Whitfield, let's review the security footage from Giuseppe's parking lot so everyone in this courtroom can see exactly what happened that evening. Marcus waved dismissively toward the monitors. Sure, let's get this over with. You'll see that my characterization is completely accurate. He adjusted his designer tie with one hand while checking his phone one final time before the video began, completely unconcerned about what the footage would reveal, confident that even video evidence couldn't touch someone of his status and wealth. The courtroom monitors flickered to life, showing the parking lot of Giuseppe's restaurant on a busy Friday evening. The footage clearly showed Marcus's black Tesla pulling into the crowded lot, weaving aggressively between other vehicles. Miguel Rodriguez approached the driver's side window professionally, his posture respectful and his demeanor calm. Good evening, sir. I'm very sorry, but we're completely full tonight. There are no available spaces at this time. The audio picked up Marcus's response with crystal clarity. Do you know who I am? I don't wait for parking spaces. Find me a spot now. Miguel's voice remained patient and apologetic. Sir, I truly wish I could help, but every single space is occupied. The restaurant is at maximum capacity. Perhaps you could try the public lot 2 blocks down, or I'd be happy to call you a taxi if you'd like to leave your car elsewhere. Marcus was visible getting out of his vehicle, his body language immediately aggressive. Then make space happen. Move someone else's car. Isn't that literally your job? To manage parking? Miguel took a small step back, clearly recognizing the escalating tension. I cannot ask other guests to move their vehicles, sir. That wouldn't be fair to them. They arrived earlier and secured their spaces properly. Marcus stepped closer, invading Miguel's personal space in a way that made the elderly attendant visibly uncomfortable. Perhaps you could do your job properly for once instead of making excuses. The footage showed Marcus reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out his wallet. He extracted a thick stack of bills and held them toward Miguel. Here's $500 cash. Forget this conversation happened, forget I was ever here, and find me a parking space in the next 2 minutes. Miguel's response demonstrated a dignity that contrasted sharply with Marcus's behavior. Sir, I cannot accept money from you. I'm simply following the restaurant's policy. Everyone must wait their turn. That's when Marcus's face transformed completely. The business professional mask dropped, revealing pure rage underneath. He stepped forward aggressively, and with both hands clearly visible on camera, he shoved Miguel hard in the chest. The elderly man, caught completely off guard and unable to brace himself, fell backward onto the pavement. The sound of Miguel crying out in pain was clearly audible on the audio feed. Other parking lot witnesses immediately rushed toward Miguel, who was on the ground clutching his wrist. One woman shouted, "Oh my God, someone call 911." Marcus stood over Miguel's fallen body, showing no concern whatsoever for the man's condition. Instead, he pointed down at him and said with absolute contempt, "Maybe next time you'll understand how to treat important customers properly." The video continued as Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call while Miguel remained on the ground receiving help from other witnesses. The audio captured his conversation. "Jennifer, I need you to handle something immediately. Some parking attendant is making a scene, and I need this contained before it becomes a problem." A witness who had knelt beside Miguel to help looked up at Marcus with shock. "Sir, you just assaulted this man. He needs medical attention." Marcus barely glanced at her. He fell because he wasn't paying attention. "This is obviously an attempt to set me up for a lawsuit. I've seen this scam 100 times. The footage showed a second angle as Marcus made another phone call, this time with even more confidence. "Commissioner Davis? Marcus Whitfield. I need you to make something go away at Giuseppe's restaurant. Some situations with an overly dramatic employee. Can you handle this quietly?" Within minutes, police cruisers arrived with lights flashing, and Officer Chen approached the scene professionally. Marcus immediately went on the offensive before the officer could even speak. "Officers, thank God you're here. This man has been harassing me and deliberately caused a scene." Officer Chen remained professional despite Marcus's aggressive tone. "Sir, we received multiple 911 calls reporting an assault. I need to ask you some questions." Marcus's voice dripped with condescension. "Before you embarrass yourself, officer, you should know that I'm Marcus Whitfield, CEO of TechVantage Solutions. I suggest you check with Commissioner Davis before proceeding further. He's a personal friend and golf partner, and I think you'll find this entire situation can be resolved with one phone call." Officer Chen didn't waver. "Sir, witnesses state that you pushed this man to the ground." "I'm going to need you to," Marcus interrupted, pulling out his phone again. "What's your badge number?" "My attorney is on speed dial, and trust me, you don't want to be the officer who arrested someone at my level over a misunderstanding. Judge Caprio paused the video, and the entire courtroom sat in absolute stunned silence. Miguel Rodriguez was present in the gallery, his wrist still in a cast, visible bruising on his arms serving as a physical reminder of the assault. Marcus, however, seemed completely unbothered by what everyone had just witnessed. He checked his watch again as if he were simply waiting for a tedious meeting to conclude. Judge Caprio's voice cut through the silence with measured precision. "Mr. Whitfield, you've just watched yourself assault an elderly man who was simply doing his job, then attempt to bribe him, and finally try to use political connections to escape consequences. How do you explain this behavior?" Marcus straightened in his chair, apparently believing he could still talk his way out of this situation. "Your Honor, that video demonstrates exactly what I've been telling you. A minor misunderstanding that Miguel chose to escalate dramatically. I offered him reasonable compensation to resolve things efficiently, and yes, I called people I know. That's called networking, not corruption. In the business world, we use our connections to solve problems. That's how successful people operate." Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, his expression growing more serious. "Mr. Whitfield, do you feel any remorse whatsoever for Miguel's injuries? For the pain you caused him? For the medical bills he's facing?" Marcus responded without hesitation, and his answer revealed everything about his character. "Remorse? Your Honor, I offered him money. Twice, actually. That's more than most people in my position would do. He's the one who refused to accept a reasonable resolution. If he had simply taken the cash I offered, he could have paid his medical bills and had money left over. Instead, he chose to pursue this legal route, which benefits nobody." Judge Caprio's voice took on an edge that veteran court observers recognized as dangerous. "You think paying someone excuses the fact that you assaulted them?" Marcus leaned forward with a condescending expression, as if he were about to explain basic economics to a child. "I think the world runs on pragmatic solutions, not emotional theatrics. Your Honor, you've spent your entire career in civil service, so maybe this is difficult for you to understand, but in the business world, problems get solved with resources and connections. Miguel had an unfortunate accident. I offered generous compensation. He refused. Now we're wasting valuable taxpayer money and court time on proceedings that should never have reached this point." Judge Caprio asked the question that would elicit Marcus's most damning statement. "Mr. Whitfield, let me ask you directly. Do you believe that assault laws apply to you in the same way they apply to everyone else?" Marcus delivered his answer without any apparent awareness of how it would sound. "Your Honor, I believe that laws should be enforced with intelligence and proper context. I'm not some violent street criminal. I'm a business leader who employs over 2,000 people directly and supports countless more through our contracts and partnerships. My company generates millions in tax revenue for this state every single year. I sit on hospital boards and university advisory committees. My decisions affect healthcare technology platforms used by millions of patients nationwide. To suggest that a minor parking lot incident involving a slight physical altercation should be treated with the same severity as actual violent crime, shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how society functions at the highest levels. People at my level contribute exponentially more to society than we could ever take from it. Justice should account for a person's overall value and contributions, not just focus myopically on isolated incidents taken out of their proper context." Judge Caprio's voice became cold as steel. "So that's a definitive no. You don't believe assault laws apply to you the same way they apply to ordinary citizens?" Marcus responded with absolute confidence, still not understanding the hole he was digging. "I believe they should be applied intelligently, taking into careful consideration who's being charged, what their contributions to society are, and what the broader implications of prosecution might be for employees, shareholders, and the community at large." Judge Caprio began speaking with careful deliberation. "Mr. Whitfield, based on the video evidence of your assault on Miguel Rodriguez, your multiple attempts at bribery, your efforts to corrupt the legal process through political connections, your complete absence of remorse, and your clearly stated belief that your wealth exempts you from the consequences that ordinary people face, I am prepared to impose significant penalties. That's when Marcus Whitfield made the single most catastrophic decision of his entire life. His phone, which had been sitting on the defendant's table, began buzzing with an incoming call. Marcus glanced at the screen and saw it was Jennifer, his executive assistant. Without asking for permission, without showing any awareness of the extraordinary inappropriateness of his action, without even a moment's hesitation, Marcus Whitfield picked up his phone and answered it right there in open court while Judge Caprio was in the middle of pronouncing his sentence. Jennifer, yeah, I'm still stuck in this ridiculous hearing. What's going on? The entire courtroom erupted in gasps and shocked exclamations. Judge Caprio's face transformed from stern judicial authority to genuine anger. Mr. Whitfield. Hang up that phone immediately. Marcus, incredibly, held up one finger in the universal, wait a minute, gesture, directing it at Judge Caprio himself. He continued his phone conversation as if the judge were simply an annoying interruption. No, move my 2 o'clock meeting to 3 o'clock. I should definitely be done here by then. This judge is taking forever with his little lecture about responsibility. Bailiffs began moving rapidly toward the defendant's table. Judge Caprio stood up from his bench, his voice carrying absolute authority. Mr. Whitfield. You are in contempt of this court. Marcus finally looked up from his phone call, his expression one of annoyance rather than concern. Your Honor, this is an extremely important business call that directly affects hundreds of employees. Can you please just hold on for 1 minute? He actually gestured dismissively at the judge with his free hand, a shooing motion suggesting Judge Caprio should wait while Marcus finished his conversation. He returned his attention to the phone. Jennifer, let me call you back in 5 minutes. Apparently, the judge is upset that I answered my phone. He hung up and looked at Judge Caprio with an expression suggesting he'd done nothing wrong. Sorry about that, Your Honor. Company business doesn't stop just because court schedules run long. Now, where were we with this sentencing discussion?